and ethics education for learning to live together. Over the last 2 days, we've been deliberating on different aspects of education. That's the missing piece in what we see around the world, whether we call it values-based education, moral education, character education, the spiritual development and the holistic development of children, social-emotional learning, ethical education, or ethics education. All of these allude to the fundamental reflections about how we as humanity live together. Creating spaces for children to consider these important reflections is very much the need of the hour. The pandemic that all of us are experiencing have really highlighted the interconnectedness of the humanity. And it calls more and more for us to respond to the ethical demands in our society. We see poverty, we see conflicts, we see violence around us. And not only we as adults, we as religious communities, we as educators, but also children have a part to play in responding to these challenges. The education we provide should empower children to respond to these challenges. And this is why we, over the last 2 days, brought together over 90 speakers, 17 of them children, over 13 sessions, including 6 interactive workshops, to really look into how does this type of education look? How do we really provide transformative educational experiences? What is the pedagogical approaches that are conducive? What can we learn from what is happening around the world, from the different practices that our institutions, our ministries of education, our educators themselves are innovating and scaling up? It's been a wonderful deliberation. It's been a pleasure to be part of this process. And here now we are at the end of this process. It's as maybe we can say that it's not the end, but it's another phase of the process starting. We have several important guests joining us today for this closing ceremony, representing some of the partners. So before I invite the speakers to share their remarks, let me also acknowledge the partners who've been part of this process over the last several months, in fact. There are 11 organizations that have come together to organize this global symposium. Reverend Hermes Foundation for Peace, the Higher Committee for Human Fraternity, ISESCO, Keisha International Dialogue Center, Kenya National Commission for UNESCO, the Ministry of Education of Kenya, Religions for Peace, Scholars Occurrentes, UNAC, or United Nations Alliance of Civilizations, UNICEF, and Arigato International. It's been a collaboration between all of these organizations to bring all of us together and to hold this symposium, creating momentum for ethics education around the world. As we come to the closing ceremony, let me first of all invite the first speaker to share her remarks, Professor Azakaram, Secretary General of Religions for Peace. Can I invite you, Madam?
Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Suchit Abiyikrama. I am so sorry if I've massacred your name. I've done my best. It's a beautiful name. I have the distinct honor and privilege to be able to say that I'm actually a student of Arigato's work for many, many, many years. And I am a great fan of this work on education and interreligious education in particular. I am also a big fan of Maria Lucia and the rest of the team at Arigato, which are doing remarkable work, for which I'm deeply grateful. I want to say that our team in Religions for Peace has been very excited by your discussions over the last 2 days. And it says a lot because this is a team that's exposed to so many different areas of work and engagements and is in the middle of so much. So to be impressed and excited is a testament to the hard work and to the substance that you have put together and pulled together, and is very much in line with Arigato's heritage of seriously working in an inclusive way to provide some of the most cutting edge advisement on the areas of education and social cohesion with children firmly in the front and center. So I just wish to pay special tribute to the efforts of all the team led by Maria Lucia and the Arigato team to bring us to this point of remarkable value. One of the first decisions I made when I took my office in Religions for Peace in March of 2020 was to say very clearly that when it comes to our work on religion and children and our work for children, that we follow and we support and we serve Arigato's work. This isn't simply about a commitment to partnership. This is about a commitment to working in a particular way, in a way that seeks to serve, first and foremost, the leadership and the good work, a way that seeks to honor, first and foremost, efforts already undertaken by very committed people and institutions. The determination to serve this agenda, even though 250 religious leaders insisted that Religions for Peace has to play a role in interreligious education and that this is indeed a strategic priority for the organization, with that determination to serve in the interreligious education space that is made by the religious leaders themselves came a commitment to work with Arigato, behind Arigato, for the effort where the intersection of interreligious education on children is concerned. We committed to not replicating, to not duplicating, and to not doing anything different, but indeed to help harvest the seeds and the remarkable fruit that Arigato is doing and will continue to do in the future. I want to use this opportunity I have to affirm that commitment to serve and support the work of Arigato, Maria Lucia, Mustafa, and many others in the domain of values or ethics education and children's welfare, for children's welfare. When we hosted, this is going to be my last point, when we hosted our Faith and Diplomacy International Religious Leaders Conference in October of this year, and before that, the year before, on women of faith and diplomacy, one of the most reiterated comments given by the youth cohort, who were co-planners of our various conversations over the last 2 years, more than 56 different conversations and consultations with different faith leaders, United Nations agencies, international non-governmental organizations, academia, north, south. One of the key points that keeps getting iterated is it's not about children because they are the future. It is about children because of right now, because of this moment, because we owe them this moment. And owing them this moment is a commitment and an obligation not to duplicate, not to replicate, and not to compete, but a deliberate commitment to serve the leadership in this space, the legacy and the heritage already established and being professionally committed to and improved and enhanced and innovated on by Arigato in this space. So this is not a simple acknowledgement. This is not a simple commitment. This is an affirmation of the legacy that Arigato has created thanks to the work of this remarkable team. The fruit of the labor, of this labor that you have been doing and continue to do, especially these last 2 days, the fruit of that labor demands an accountability by those of us who are sitting and speaking in this closing ceremony. The accountability at a minimum is to ensure that the fruit of this labor goes where you intend it to go, where you created it for what you created it for. We have an obligation to ensure that this work is not only supported and sustained verbally, but in the way that you demand this to be disseminated. We have an obligation to support you in this space, to do what needs to be done in order to make sure that there are not a gazillion other projects and programs and initiatives coming up with exactly the same kind of work, but labeled or branded differently, but instead that we commit to working together to serve the dissemination and the monitoring and evaluation that you require and that this work demands. And it is this commitment that I want to ensure we can continue to support in this space, and we stand ready to collaborate with every one of you to ensure that this good work that's already being done gets properly disseminated and monitored and evaluated to the best of our abilities. I wish you much success therewith. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Karam, for these powerful words of commitment and also calling for synergy, not to replicate, but to build on each other's efforts and to really champion ethics education for children. Let me next move to Dr. Mulambe Sylvester. Dr. Mulambe Sylvester is the Director of Policy and Partnerships at the Ministry of Education for Kenya. Governments are a key partner if we are to provide ethics education for children. Dr. Mulambe, I welcome you to share your remarks.
Thank you very much. Thank Suchin, if I can say I've pronounced your name well. Thank you very much. I just want to say that it was really a pleasure for us from government to be in this engagement. It was quite enriching. We have gathered a lot. I'm sure the duty is on us, just like Professor said, that we have to really make sure that Aragatoa really achieves from this serious work that they have done over this period. I want to give thanks to all the coordinators, all the partners who partnered to make this a reality. And of course, for Maria, who has been coordinating us right from the days of preparation for this meeting. I think this has been great, and that we are here really counting success out of the engagements that we've had. It was quite a lesson and quite enriching and fulfilling to hear the children really give us what we call realia, giving us what exactly they feel about what we do and what they feel that we should be able to do. I think that was really great, and we have gone away having learned that it's always good to involve children so that you can be able to hear from them what they really want to be done. I think that was really an addition to this particular program. COVID-19, of course, has taught us quite a lot. Of course, one of them is, of course, the area of ICT. That ICT is no longer just one of the priorities, that, of course, a top priority. And, of course, linked to ethics education, it has also taught us that we really need to really emphasize on ethics education if we have to experience better lives in future. Ethics education is important to make life better in society, harmonious life and enriching life. We all imagine a life that is harmonious, a life that is peaceful, a life where everybody is enjoying life. I think that is where Aragatoa wants to take us in this particular engagement. Let us all join hands to make sure that what we have learned from this engagement really gets into practice. Education is an important vehicle. What we have learned from this engagement is that we need to really use education to inculcate these values, and more specifically, the use of curriculum to inculcate these values. Because curriculum, of course, is the area of focus. And of course, if you take what you want people to get where the area of focus is, then it really gets to the people. What we only need to do is to make sure that we systematically inculcate these values through the curriculum. We need to allow more studies. I want to say, and from my experience as a policymaker, that we need to allow still more studies in the area of ethics education to actually see that what we are doing and what we even think that should be done is actually correct, and that we need to make sure that we are empirically advised by research as we move towards policy making in this area. And of course, once we focus in the area of research in this area, then you can be sure that the actions that we shall be able to put across will be very, very important to us moving forward. The outcome of moral education curriculum is to create a generation of citizens who are of the right character. And of course, people who can foster community cohesiveness, and that people who can uphold values. As I close, I leave you with a quote from William Ralph, who states, "The aim of education is the knowledge, not of facts, but of values. Education with values will transform the world." Thank you very much, and let's have a pleasant closing ceremony. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mulambe. And thank you very much for speaking on behalf of governments and calling for a commitment towards promoting ethics education for children. Yes, it needs to be an evidence-based approach, and we need to do a lot more research into this, and that requires also commitment from all stakeholders. I also acknowledge the different government representatives, ministries of education representatives that joined us throughout this symposium. We had representation from Algeria, Argentina, Bangladesh, Bosnia-Herzegovina, Indonesia, Kenya, Lebanon, Paraguay, Somalia, Sri Lanka, and the United Arab Emirates. A wide range of countries showing a commitment and an interest to promote ethics education for children. Let me move then to our next speaker, Madam Mary Kangete. Mary has been part of the team that's been involved as the consortium of partners involved in organizing this symposium. She has been providing inputs from the very beginning at the conceptualization of the symposium and has been a very big supporter of this work. Mary, as I invite you, I also invite you to share your remarks and the policy statement that the symposium wishes to share to its audience.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Suchin, for this opportunity. On behalf of the Secretary General, Kenya National Commission for UNESCO, Dr. Evangeline Joka, who was with us during the opening ceremony, I want to take this opportunity to thank all the co-organizers for inviting us to be part of this process. It's been an exciting 2 days. I also want to state that as the National Commission for UNESCO in Kenya, we are excited because the work that we have been taking forward for the 2 days has really been in line with the report that was launched on 10th November during the UNESCO General Conference, The Futures of Education, a Social Contract. When you read the report, you see a lot of the sessions that we had in this symposium actually align to what the report presents. We are convinced that the engagement for the last 2 days have enhanced the profile of ethics education in our education systems, because we are specifically interested in seeing this taken up by government, because we know then we will be able to reach out to more children. We have appreciated the recognition that governments are now adopting strategic and systematic approaches to mainstream ethics education. The challenge remains for us to work towards ensuring that our education in both formal and non-formal fields have the requisite capacities to take this work forward. So there is need for us to focus on our educators. We applaud and congratulate Arigato International for the launch of the manual. It has been a long journey to come to this process, and therefore we, as the Commission, we applaud the work, and we look forward to working together as we further learn together how to effectively reach out to the younger children. In terms of what we look forward to, we look forward to more opportunities to engage governments, and I know we can work together on this. And we are also looking forward to more platforms for government institutions to learn from each other and also from the other partners. With that, I want to take this opportunity to now humbly present to you the policy recommendations that have been given. I know it will be uploaded, it will be uploaded for the members to read the background and all the other areas, but I will restrict myself to the 5 recommendations that we have made in this symposium. So the first one, we have the main recommendation, and then we have the thinking behind the recommendation. So the first recommendation that we are making is that we want that ethics education needs to be mainstreamed to promote intercultural and interfaith learning in the existing education curriculum, policies, and programming. This is because ethics education contributes to education to strengthen relationships between students and with educators, supports the creation of safe learning environment, empowers educators to create transformative learning experiences, improves students' academic engagement, and increases well-being. So we are keen that it be mainstream. The second one is we strengthen the capacity of formal education institutions and educators on ethics education. Training for teachers, both pre-service and in-service training on ethics education, transformative pedagogy enhances teachers' capacity to address issues of discrimination and bullying in the classroom, provides them with skills to engage dialogue and foster students' agency, and increases their self-awareness about the critical role education plays in transforming social inequities and building more inclusive societies. So there is need then to strengthen capacity of formal education institutions and educators on ethics education. The third one is enhanced connection between the school, parents, families, and the local community. And we have a statement there that explains that. I think maybe I don't need to read it. You will see it as you get the full policy brief from this. The other one, number 4, is promote collaboration among different actors, including faith communities, to promote ethics education in formal and non-formal education. So that calls for us to work together. And finally, the 5th recommendation is we increase investment and improve accountability for all relevant stakeholders. And we know that globally, there is a call for us to increase investments in education. So that call is also there to invest, to account in terms of monitoring and all the other aspects. So you will be able to get the full policy brief, providing you with the background and the reasoning behind each and every one of these recommendations. With those remarks, I humbly submit. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Marikangete. Thank you on behalf of representing the Kenya National Commission for UNESCO. Next, let me invite a special person who's joining us. As this symposium was organized over the last 2 days, there were more than 60 children that went through pre-meetings to consult each other, to dialogue about what type of education they want. And there were 17 of them that represented those larger group of children and spoke in different sessions. So next, at this point of the closing ceremony, also we want to invite a child, Ivana from Bosnia-Herzegovina. Ivana, can I invite you to share your thoughts?
Hello, greetings from Bosnia-Herzegovina. My name is Ivana Jakic, and I'm representative of the Junior C Youth Committee. I'm extremely honored to be a part of this program among great professionals and speakers. It is by listening to these speakers that they speak by example and represent the true values of ethical education. We can improve ethical education primarily by giving young people and children the opportunity to develop and propose their innovative ideas. Empathy needs to be developed in children and young people. So empathy is the highest form of ethics, along with understanding is the highest form and value. Ethical education is the responsibility of adults through which tolerance is developed, understanding for the other and the different. It is the responsibility of all of you to include already developed ethics education programs and official curriculum. With your determination, adult connections, you can all work together to influence governments to see the importance of ethical education. Ethical education can be improved by personal example, by involving children and people in dialogue and joint cooperation in order to implement in the official laws of ethical education. The question we must never forget in ethical education is, how do you feel? Feelings move us and motivate us to move on. I urge all adults to never forget this issue by working together and referring it to the child. Children and children's feelings are the drivers of change and emotion. Thank you.
Thank you, Ivana. Thank you for also reminding us that the education has a role to also respond to challenges 50, 60, 100 years from now. And the education that's required to meet the challenge of the future is one that we need to be guided by children on. So children have a very crucial role to be partners in this process of promoting ethics education for children, conceiving what type of education is needed around the world that responds to the different realities. Thank you, Ivana, for these wonderful remarks. Next, let me invite Mrs. Ilham Al-Shejni, Interim Deputy Secretary General of the KAICIT International Dialogue Center. Madam.
Thank you very much. Dear partners, ladies and gentlemen and friends, I am really honored to deliver these remarks among distinguished speakers at the closing of the Global Symposium on Ethics Education for Learning to Live Together. At KAICIT, and I believe that I'm talking in the name of all partners, living together is an everyday practice with staff from all corners of the world, different nationalities, different religions, ethnicities, and many different backgrounds. The act of living together is an exercise that we practice daily. In the face of challenges such as COVID-19 and rising inequalities, we need to put inclusive education high on our agenda. Over this past year alone, we've been seeing a worrying trend of othering narratives driven by fear and insecurity. Our societies are being divided into us and them. What can we do then? It is what Arigato is doing to transform the world around us and foster peaceful, just communities and promote a better education for our children. At the heart of our shared values rests the firm belief that education is the main foundation on which we build the future of our societies. When we invest in the moral thinking of our future leaders, our children, we cultivate a learning process grounded in reason, diplomacy, and tolerance. The finer and more fertile the soil we cultivate together, the more resilient and firmer the roots of an education against all forms of hatred will grow. And I echo Dr. Karam's words that we owe it to the children, not because they represent our future, but because we owe it to them and we owe it to them now. Quality education, along with dialogue, generates mutual respect and creates space for different perspectives and ideas. It teaches us to care for the marginalized and oppressed and to uphold human dignity. It promotes critical thinking and encourages empathy, which Ivana just highlighted. Yet we know that while it can be used to nurture and develop, it can also be hijacked in the name of division and hatred. At KAICIT, we know how vital it is to invest in ethical, moral value systems which address current global challenges and uphold human rights. We strongly believe in education enriched by a transformative dialogical approach, which connects children from different backgrounds and communities of faith. During the pandemic, when many children were forced to close, many religious leaders actively reached out to vulnerable or marginalized communities and advocated solidarity. According to UN statistics, faith-based organizations operate half the world's schools, often in rural and hard-to-reach places, particularly in areas far from conflict. We must continue to harness these partnerships and encourage these organizations to put ethics at the heart of their curricula. All of us were children at one point in time, but in a different world. Nowadays, technology is opening up many new opportunities for learning and dialogue. Many are still unable to benefit. It also creates new challenges for today's youth, including online hate speech and extremism. We must remember to listen to and fully engage with children and young people and ensure that education is providing the tools they need to succeed. In closing, I would like to express how proud we are at KAICIT to partner with Arigato as we work together to encourage dialogue between diverse cultures and religions and invest in young people and children. The discussions and exchanges that we all witnessed over the past 2 days, as well as the policy recommendations just read, have heartened me. I echo the need to work together, not to replicate, but to support and engage constructively. It is our shared responsibility to counter the politics of fear and to build cohesive, resilient communities. And I'm convinced it's possible if we work together. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Al-Shejni. Thank you for these remarks, highlighting how important ethics education can be, how important education that promotes dialogue between different cultures, different belief systems is a crucial part of the work that we need to do together. Let me then finally, but not the least, invite Mrs. Maria Lucia Uribe. She's the director of Arigato International's office in Geneva, and she leads the ethics education program for Arigato International. Ms. Maria Lucia Uribe.
Thank you, Suchit, and thank you so much, everyone, and our partners and the people joining us today. This has been 2 very enriching days that range from dialogues on the current social challenges we face, the disruption of education, the needs of children, their dreams and aspirations that we hear from them in terms of what they want to see when it comes to education, and how we can respond to those, how we can help them to be empowered to respond to the challenges they see. And the discussions move to collectively reflecting on this critical role of ethics education, its meaning as critical aspect to learn to live together, to find common ground and work to transform our communities. We heard from the experiences of more than 20 countries around the world through governments, civil society organizations, religious leaders, religious actors, children and young people themselves. We discussed the challenges and opportunities, as well as the collaborative efforts with faith communities and the importance of interfaith learning to address the increasing polarization, the hate rhetoric and discrimination that we see in our world. Tudor, one of the children who spoke during the high-level panel, asked me during one of the preparatory meetings, and he said, Maria Lucia, what will change after this symposium? And I paused and I looked at him, a bit troubled, as if whatever I would say would be disappointing for him. And then I thought and I said, I turned to him and I said, we are not sure, but we will do our best to convey compelling recommendations and to develop follow-up collaborative actions. My colleague did say to Tudor, please ask that question to the panelists and keep us accountable. We cannot keep empty promises to children. Children and young people want to be connected with one another, empowered, and provided with spaces and opportunities to contribute to transform their communities, to make a difference. They want to be heard and they want to be part of the discussions and actions taken. Ethics education is an offer to make that happen and to contribute to their well-being. Reverend Keisha Miyamoto, president of Arigato International, started this symposium remembering the words of his father, the late Reverend Takeyasu Miyamoto. Reverend Takeyasu Miyamoto said, "It is my firm belief that spiritual decline and lack of attention to basic ethics is at the root of the increasing violence and injustice we see all around us today. An essential step on the road to peace is to ensure that every child grows up with full access to their innate capacity for spiritual development. And this is why the implementation of interfaith ethics education, both in schools and in many other educational settings, is so vital in accomplishing the goal of building a peaceful world of human dignity, a world fit for children in the truest sense. It is in the understanding of their interconnectedness with one another, including peers and adults, in the possibility to learn from one another, in their journey to find common ground and work together, that children and young people develop their sense of belonging, their inner sense of purpose, they realize their ethical demands, that we hold the lives of each other in our hands, and that we do or do not do have an impact on others. And that nurtures their spirituality, a spirituality that embraces their ability to think critically, become aware of their privileges or their lack of, and relate and work together across gender, economic, ethnic, religious, and cultural divides. Ethics education is a must today to build forward better and in the transformations we want to see and that we need to see in our world. I want to thank each and every one of our partners, the Gerard Mermes Foundation for Peace, the Higher Committee for Human Fraternity, ICESCO, Kaiser International Dialogue Center, the Kenya Ministry of Education, the Kenya National Commission for UNESCO, Escolas Ocurrentes, Religions for Peace, UNICEF, UN Alliance of Civilizations, and to thank the support of UNESCO. It has been a 5-month journey together, planning this symposium, but also thinking of ways to bring the reflections and recommendations forward. I'm glad to say that the policy brief will be shared widely through our partners, particularly with governments and religious leaders in the position to influence policies and programs in their communities. And we will be conducting several meetings with ministries of education to share the recommendations and ways to bring them into action. Several partners will also join together in the launch of an international fellowship program to build capacities in ministries of education on how to integrate ethics education for intercultural and interfaith learning, promoting the principles of human fraternity, and equipping educators with concrete tools and skills to integrate transformative pedagogies and dialogue in the educational practices. And we look forward to this exciting collaboration. On behalf of all our partners, I want to thank all the 90 speakers, including children and young people, and the more than 900 participants who join us in these 2 days to share experiences, challenges, and opportunities, and recommendations to advance ethics education for learning to live together today. This job doesn't end here. It's the beginning of a more exciting collaboration, and I'm deeply humbled and grateful for the great collaborations and the great reflections we had during these days. So let's join hands in action and bring the promise that we have made here to our children and young people. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Maria Lucia Uribe. Transforming education. Who's going to do this transformation? We have to be the transformation. I call for all the organizations to live up to this commitment, but also us as individuals. Can you have a conversation with somebody from Ministry of Education? You know, an educator that you can engage in a program on ethics education, talk to children about the type of ethics education they want to be part of. These are things that we as individuals can do beyond also the organizational commitments that you've already heard here. I look forward to seeing many of you being champions of ethics education going forward. As we come to the end of the symposium, I also wish to share with you that all the materials that have been shared, the recordings of the different sessions will be made available on the symposium website, and you can access them in the coming days. If there is any additional resources that you're looking for, please do get in touch with us. As we wrap up the symposium and the closing ceremony, let us look at memories from the last 2 days.
Good afternoon and good evening to all the distinguished participants, children and adults joining us today from all around the world.
精神的な衰退と基本的な倫理観の欠如が今日私たちの周りで見られる暴力と不公正の増加の根底にあると確信しています。
Ethical education is very important because it can enable us to live well in human communities.
بالعكس التعليم ينبغي أن يؤكد ويرسخ القيم.
To guide learners to see beyond their self-interests to the needs of the global community.
Ethics education is not a luxury. Ethics education is a must.
The schools can create thematic clubs so that the children can become united by a common passion.
So during the pandemic, children in my community experienced a lot of problems. Some of the problems were hunger due to closure of schools, and many children relied on schools for food because it was a safe space for them. So there was also increasing violence.
I think the critical phrase is learning to kill.
Like many other children in the world, and we all never choose where we were born. what ethnicity and even religion since childhood.
This current publication is focusing on children between 6 to 11 years.
"教育が多様な人々を受け入れる平和な社会の構築に貢献するものとなるよう手を携えて行動していきましょう。
Thank you for your kind attention.
والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Thank you. Thank you. I thank you and God bless you. Thank you.
God bless you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Suchit, you are on mute.
Suchit,